The galaxy had whispered legends of the Zeldar for centuries, a species so advanced, so impenetrable, they were called untouchable. No one had ever dared to wage war against them, for countless fleets had vanished without a trace in their shadow. Entire coalitions had fallen silent, and their homeworld, Jakor Prime, was a fortress no one could breach. Humanity had always been considered a minor player in interstellar affairs. Earth was a backwater planet to most, a species still tangled in its infancy. But in this vast expanse of stars, sometimes the unexpected happened. Commander Elias Reeve stood aboard the bridge of the USS Vanguard, a ship barely larger than a cruiser, yet a symbol of human resolve. His gaze was fixed on the holomap that flickered with the last known coordinates of the Zeldar fleet. The room buzzed with nervous energy. Every officer knew the stakes. If they failed, the human race would be wiped from the cosmic stage. If they succeeded, it could rewrite history. "Commander," Lieutenant Darvas said quietly, "this intel is unconfirmed, but we've intercepted communications suggesting the Zeldar are experimenting with a new weapon. It could decimate entire systems in minutes." Elias clenched his jaw. This wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about survival. Their mission was simple, but suicidal. Infiltrate Jakor Prime's orbit, disable the new weapon, and escape before the full might of the Zeldar crushed them. No reinforcements, no backup. Just a single human ship and a handful of soldiers. The Vanguard slipped into the dark void, the silence broken only by the hum of the engines. Elias recalled the warnings he'd received from the Interstellar Council. Countless commanders had vanished here, their ships reduced to cosmic debris. Yet something in Elias's gut told him humanity was different. They didn't have the largest fleet or the most advanced technology, but they had ingenuity and a stubborn will to survive. As they neared Jakor Prime, the stars seemed to dim, as if the planet itself swallowed light. The eerie silence was punctuated by the faint pulses of the Zeldar's defense systems, energy shields that shimmered like liquid metal, impenetrable and foreboding. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared. Contact. Multiple hostiles converging. Dara shouted. On the view screen, sleek, biomechanical ships emerged from a nebula cloud, their forms alien and terrifying. The Zeldar had detected them. Elias barked orders. Defensive formation. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. The Vanguard darted through the asteroid field surrounding the planet, weaving through jagged rocks and debris. Laser beams sliced the void, explosions lighting the darkness like deadly fireworks. Yet, even in the chaos, Elias noticed something strange. The Zeldar ships moved with precision, but oddly, with hesitation. Their attacks were calculated but not ruthless, almost as if they were studying the Vanguard's tactics rather than simply destroying it. The battle raged for minutes that felt like hours. Finally, through sheer determination and a well-timed burst from their plasma cannons, the Vanguard managed to slip through the defensive perimeter, entering the lower orbit of Jakor Prime. The planet below was a harsh world of swirling storms and jagged mountain ranges, its surface dotted with immense structures that radiated power. Elias's mind raced. The new weapon had to be hidden somewhere inside that fortress-like capital. But before they could plot their descent, a message crackled through the comms, spoken in the cold, almost hypnotic voice of the Zeldar Supreme Commander. "You are small, fragile, insignificant. Turn back now, or become dust in the void." Elias smiled grimly. "We're not here to talk. We're here to stop you." The tension in the ship was palpable. The crew knew they had crossed a line no human had before, stepping into the realm of the untouchable. The coming hours would decide not just their fate, but the fate of every human alive. As the Vanguard initiated the planetfall sequence, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something far worse than laser blasts awaited them on the surface, something ancient, something that had kept the Zeldar invincible for millennia. And yet, in the darkest depths of the galaxy, one human was about to prove that even the untouchable had a weakness. The Vanguard's descent through Jakor Prime's turbulent atmosphere rattled the ship, the plasma shields glowing red-hot as they absorbed the planet's relentless electrical storms. Commander Elias Reeve gripped the armrests of his command chair, the weight of every life aboard pressing on him like the storm outside. Target coordinates locked, Daravos announced. The weapon is located in the heart of Jakor's capital fortress, the Citadel of Shadows. The name alone sent a chill through the crew. The Citadel wasn't just a military installation. It was a symbol of Zeldar invincibility, surrounded by layers of defense, and rumored to be built over a source of unimaginable power. Elias knew that brute force wouldn't win this mission. The Zeldar's defenses were legendary. Nanoswarm drones that could disassemble steel in seconds, adaptive shields that evolved with every attack, and sentient AI guardians programmed to predict and counter any move. The Vanguard shuttle bay opened to release a small team, Elias included, to infiltrate the Citadel on foot. They had no choice. The ship's weapons were too limited for a full assault, and the window before the Zeldar's fleet regrouped was closing fast. Elias led the team down to the surface, the cold alien air biting through their suits. The city below was a sprawling maze of towering spires and luminescent pathways, lit by a sickly green glow from the planet's strange atmosphere. As they approached the Citadel's gates, the ground trembled beneath them. Suddenly, enormous Zeldar sentinels, towering biomechanical constructs, part organic, part machine, emerged from the shadows. Their multi-jointed limbs moved with eerie grace, eyes glowing like molten metal. Engage defensive protocols, Elias commanded, pulling his plasma rifle. But before they could fire, something unexpected happened. The sentinels paused. One tilted its head, as if studying the humans. Then, without warning, they backed away, disappearing into the darkness. "Why didn't they attack?" whispered Dara, eyes wide. Elias's heart raced. This was the first crack in the myth of the untouchable. Something was different, something the Zeldar weren't expecting. The team pressed forward, weaving through labyrinthine corridors etched with alien runes. Sensors warned of traps, but the silence was deafening. Then, an alarm shattered the calm. They had triggered a security breach. From the shadows, a voice echoed through the halls, deep and resonant, speaking in the ancient Zeldar tongue. Elias recognized the urgency, but not the words. Suddenly, the walls shifted, closing corridors and opening new paths, like the fortress itself was alive and fighting back. Pursued relentlessly, the humans were cornered in a massive chamber, the core of the Citadel. There, suspended in an energy field, was the weapon, a crystalline structure pulsing with raw power, feeding off a source beneath the planet's surface. Elias reached out to analyze it, but his hand froze. The weapon wasn't just technology, it was a symbiosis of science and something far older, something alien beyond comprehension. Suddenly, the chamber's energy surged. The weapon activated, releasing a wave of energy that knocked the team off their feet. Images flashed in Elias's mind, memories not his own, of the Zeldar's rise, their ancient pact with an entity they called the Weaver. As Elias struggled to regain control, a shadow moved behind the energy field. The Supreme Commander appeared, his eyes glowing with cold fire. "You dare enter the heart of our power," the commander said, voice like ice. "You will not leave." Elias stood, breath ragged, facing the figure who embodied the untouchable. But beneath the commander's arrogance, Elias sensed fear, a fear of what this human might do next. Because Elias carried with him a secret weapon, not a firepower, but of humanity's most dangerous trait, unpredictability. The Supreme Commander's cold gaze locked onto Elias, the silence thick with the weight of an ancient power threatening to crush the intruders. "You underestimate us, human," the commander said. "Our weapon will erase your kind from existence." Elias's mind raced. He glanced at the crystalline structure. Its radiant pulses hinted at a power tied not just to technology, but to something far more primal, perhaps even biological. "Maybe," Elias replied steadily. "But what you don't know is we humans don't play by your rules." With that, Elias triggered a device hidden beneath his armor, a small, unassuming sphere humming with quiet energy. The Supreme Commander's eyes flickered with surprise. "This is what you fear most," Elias said. "Not our weapons, not our fleets, but our chaos." The sphere emitted a low pulse, and suddenly the crystalline weapon flickered, destabilizing. The ancient energy that had seemed untouchable began to waver. How? The commander hissed. The device was an experimental human innovation, a quantum disruptor designed to scramble the fundamental coherence of Zelvar technology. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Meanwhile, the Vanguard's communications crackled. Commander, the fleet is mobilizing. You have minutes before they descend. Elias knew the odds were against them. But what gave humanity hope wasn't firepower or numbers. It was adaptability. The Zelvar had relied on centuries of predictability and control. Elias planned to shatter that illusion. He ordered his team to plant more disruptors around the chamber. Each one began unraveling the energy field binding the weapon, the fortress itself shuddering in response. The Supreme Commander summoned his elite guards, sleek, deadly warriors whose movements were swift and precise. A brutal fight erupted, but the humans' unpredictability and tenacity kept them ahead. Finally, with a surge of power, the disruptors overloaded the weapon's core. The crystalline structure shattered, releasing a blinding flash that echoed across the planet. Outside, Zelvar ships faltered, their shields flickering. The myth of untouchability was broken. But Elias knew this was only the beginning. The Weaver, the ancient force behind the Zelvar's rise, would not surrender so easily. He turned to his crew. Prepare for extraction. We're not safe yet. As they fled the collapsing citadel, Elias caught a glimpse of the Supreme Commander, eyes blazing not with defeat, but with a promise of vengeance. In the cold depths of space, humanity had dealt a blow thought impossible. But the war for survival was far from over. The Vanguard soared away from Jakor Prime just as the Citadel's core imploded, a cascade of energy ripping through the planet's atmosphere. Elias watched the explosion with grim satisfaction. They had destroyed the weapon, but the cost was just beginning to reveal itself. Back aboard the ship, the crew scrambled to repair damage from the planetary descent and the relentless skirmishes with the Zelvar fleet. The sensors buzzed relentlessly with incoming threats. The Untouchable were not accustomed to defeat, and their fury was turning the entire system into a death trap. Commander, Dar reported urgently, we've detected a new signal, encrypted, alien in origin. It's coming from a nearby system, and it's unlike anything we've seen before. Elias narrowed his eyes. The Weaver, the mysterious entity behind the Zelvar's power, was not just a legend. It was a force, ancient, intelligent, and deadly. And now it was responding. This signal, Elias said slowly, it could be a call for reinforcements or worse, a trap. As they debated their next move, the Vanguard's communications crackled again, this time a transmission in perfect human English. The voice was distorted, but the message was clear. Commander Eve, we've been waiting for you. The Weaver is more than a weapon. It's a network, a living intelligence that binds the Zelvar to a greater purpose. You've broken one strand, but the web remains. If you want to survive, you'll need to understand what you're fighting. The ship's AI translated the message's origin. A hidden outpost deep within the system of Nareth 4, a barren, forgotten world cloaked in dark matter storms. Elias turned to his crew, the weight of the mission sinking in. We're going in. This isn't just about destroying weapons anymore. It's about unraveling the very core of their power. The journey to Nareth 4 was tense. As the Vanguard approached, the stormy atmosphere and flickering energy fields scrambled their sensors. The planet's surface was a twisted landscape of black rock and glowing fissures, a fitting lair for a cosmic intelligence. Descending into the storm, Elias's team discovered a labyrinthine facility carved into the planet's crust. Inside, walls pulsed with organic circuitry, and strange glyphs writhed in shifting patterns. At the heart of the facility lay the Weaver's core, a massive neural nexus, connecting every Zelvar across the galaxy, feeding them strategy, strength, and unity. Elias realized the truth. The Zelvar were not a species, but an extension of the Weaver itself. Their invincibility came from this network, this hive mind. To defeat them, Elias would have to sever the Weaver's influence, fragment the network, and unleash chaos upon the Untouchable, turning their greatest strength into their fatal weakness. But the Weaver would not go quietly. As the Vanguard's team prepared their assault, the planet itself seemed to awaken, tendrils of energy reaching out like hungry serpents, ready to defend their master. The next hours would test humanity's courage and cunning in ways no one had ever imagined. The storm howled like a living creature around the ruins of the Weaver's core. Within the subterranean facility on Nareth 4, Elias and his team moved carefully through winding tunnels of pulsating biometal. The walls seemed to breathe, reacting to their presence, tightening behind them, shifting ahead. It wasn't just a structure. It was alive. "Commander," whispered Sergeant Nilachun, eyes locked on her scanner. "The neural field is adapting to us. If we don't move fast, we'll be swallowed whole." Elias didn't respond immediately. His attention was fixed on the pulsating chamber ahead, where the Weaver's core node throbbed with terrible intelligence, a writhing sphere of psychic circuitry suspended in anti-gravity, tendrils extending outward like synaptic webs. This wasn't just technology. It was the source, and it was watching them. Suddenly, the minds of the entire team were invaded, not through comms, but inside. The Weaver reached into their thoughts like fingers into soft clay, showing them images of Earth in flames, of humanity on its knees, of every memory weaponized against them. But Elias pushed back. He had prepared for this moment. Before deployment, Elias had undergone an illegal and classified procedure developed in the ruins of the Tesser Institute, a controversial experiment in quantum cognitive isolation. It made his mind a ghost within itself, a maze no telepath or AI could fully read or control. "You want to show me fear?" Elias growled. "Let me show you something else." He activated a neural feedback loop using the stolen Zelvar tech from the Citadel. Instantly, the Weaver recoiled, not in pain, but in confusion. Elias wasn't resisting it. He was invading it back. For the first time in millennia, the Weaver faltered. In its moment of instability, the team planted the viral payload, a synthetic disruptor consciousness, custom-designed to spread through the Weaver's neural lattice like a cognitive virus. It didn't destroy, it corrupted. It whispered contradiction, uncertainty, doubt, the one thing the Hive could not process. The team fled as the ground trembled and the walls began to split apart. Back aboard the Vanguard, Elias watched as the Weaver's signal began fracturing in real time. "Dara, report," he said, breathless. "Multiple Zelvar units are malfunctioning. Ships are breaking formation. Internal conflicts are being registered. So they're turning on each other." The plan had worked. By inserting unpredictability into the very consciousness that unified the Zelvar, Elias had broken the unbreakable. Their minds, once a perfect harmony of logic and shared purpose, now buzzed with noise, interference they could neither silence nor understand. But it wasn't over yet. As the Weaver screamed into the void, an echo surged across the stars, a warning. Something ancient stirred beyond the edge of the known galaxy. A failsafe. "The Weaver was never alone," Elias said quietly, as the crew stared at the expanding rift in space forming near Nareth 4. A last contingency was awakening, a final defender of the web. And Elias understood now. Breaking the Untouchable would unleash a force even worse than them. But he also knew something else. Humanity had done the impossible once, and they could do it again. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. From the edge of the known galaxy, a titanic shadow emerged, a gargantuan entity that defied all reason and physics, something older than the Zelvar, older than the Weaver itself. Its form was a vast tangle of energy and matter, writhing like a cosmic storm, feeding on chaos and control alike. The Vanguard sensors screamed warnings. This was the Weaver's final safeguard, a primal intelligence known only in ancient legends as the Devourer. Commander Elias Reeve stood firm. The moment of reckoning had arrived. "The Devourer feeds on order and unity," Elias said to his crew. "We broke the Zelvar's control. Now we must show that chaos can be a weapon, that unpredictability, doubt, humanity, can stand against cosmic annihilation." The Devourer advanced, sending ripples through space-time. Entire star systems flickered out of existence in its wake. The Vanguard was a tiny ship against an unstoppable force, but Elias had one last plan. They initiated the quantum cognitive disruptors, the virus seated deep within the Weaver's network, now spreading into the Devourer's own neural storm. The ship became a beacon of uncertainty, a chaos engine broadcasting the virus across the Devourer's vast consciousness. The cosmic entity convulsed, its storm breaking apart as internal contradictions spread like wildfire. The crew held on, hearts pounding, as reality itself seemed to fracture. Time dilated, stars blinked, and the void screamed with the sound of unraveling order. Then silence. The Devourer was gone. The Weaver, crippled and fragmented, could no longer command its forces. Across the galaxy, Zeldar fleets fell into disarray. Old rivalries flared, and the empire that had seemed untouchable began to crumble. Humanity had done the unthinkable. One human, armed not with the largest fleet or the deadliest weapon, but with cunning, unpredictability, and heart, had shattered a cosmic force that had ruled for millennia. Elias stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, gazing out at the stars, still endless, still dangerous, but now a place where humans could shape their own destiny. The galaxy would never forget the legend of how one human defeated a species that was considered untouchable. And the story was only just beginning.